Hi, I'm Kim Rayner from All About Spirit, Life, Health, and Money Coaching. And I'm really glad you decided to click on the QR code to learn a little bit more about how I might be able to offer you some solutions to some of your debt issues, whether they're concerns or just an idea that I don't like the way things are going and I'd like to make some changes. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing an introduction. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I'm going to be sharing a PowerPoint with you that is going to literally talk about opening doors for families and communities and finding a way to help them leverage and grow their money. So you really do have the opportunity to take control over your finances. And man, during these crazy times, who doesn't want and need that? So my name is Kim Rayner, and I'm the presenter today. I'm a debt solution strategist. I'm also the founder of All About Spirit, Life, Health, and Money Coaching. I come from a long line of family-owned businesses. My grandparents, my parents, both of my parents, my son, me, my sister, we have all owned or own our own businesses. I've been a real estate investor and a private lender for more than 45 years, and I've been coaching people on life, health, and money matters for more than 25. So I'm really excited to be here today. And my mission really is eliminating debt in our communities one family at a time by giving people control over their financial future through education and financial literacy. And you can always hop onto my Facebook page to see what's coming up in the world of financial literacy, what we have coming down the pike. So in 2023, the average American debt payments reached 9.8% of their total income, not their net income, but their total income. That's a big piece of change. That's almost 10% of your money going to pay down debt. Some key figures from 2023, right? The first column here is, what is the kind of debt that we're talking about? The second column here is the amount of debt per family. The third column here is the amount of debt nationally. And these are big numbers, right? $244.5 thousand dollars. HELOCs, 42,000. Auto loans, 23, almost 24,000. Credit cards, more than 6,000. $3,800 in or $38,000 in student debts. If only it was 3,800. Total debts for the average family is 104,215, and we know that that is kind of a middle of the road thing. There are people who are much higher on the scale, and $104,000 in debt is a lot of money if you are not making enough money to be able to pay that back. So I want to take an opportunity to look at a 30-year mortgage. Now, I understand that the numbers that we're using here, that 4.5%, most people would would give a lot to get a 4.5% interest rate on a 30-year mortgage. Again, those days are gone, at least for a little while. But I'm still going to use this as a scenario because the numbers are round and they're pretty easy to work with. On a 30-year note, $200,000, 4.5% interest, the average monthly payment is going to be about $1,013. So if you go through your first year and you make every payment on time, you're never late, you never have a penalty of any kind, you're going to pay just over $12,000 for your first year. 8,900, almost 9,000 of that is going to go toward paying interest. Principal is going to be $3,200, right? So that doesn't work out to be this little 4.5% interest that we talked about. That actually is closer to 73% interest. So if you look at 2 years down the road, again, about $12,000 paid into the life of your note. 8,700 of that is going to go toward interest. About 3,500, just under 3,500, is going to go toward principal. That doesn't work out to 4.5%. That too is 72% interest. So let's kick the can down the road to 20 years. At the end of 20 years, you will have paid $243,000 for your $200,000 home. Now, I don't have a problem with it costing money to borrow money. That makes sense to me. What I do have a problem with is actually wasting money. So at the end of your 20 years, which is 2/3 of the way through your debt, you've paid 243,000, but you still owe just under half of what you originally borrowed. That is a big chunk of change. So if you kick the can all the way down the road and you go 30 years without ever making a late payment, without ever having to pay a penalty, without refinancing or anything else, you're going to pay $365,000 for your $200,000 home. That does not work out to be 4.5% interest. When you look at that, that's actually 82% interest, $164,813. That's a lot of money in interest. And when we hear that 4.5%, we're hearing simple interest, but our interest is not compounded on mortgages simply, right? So you end up paying a lot more than you think. Now, that wasn't a big secret. That money, that information was disclosed to you at the time that you signed your truth in lending papers. So a lot of times when we're making decisions about debt, we make decisions from an emotional standpoint. We might look at debt, and average households have about 6 different debts, right? We have a pain point when we start thinking about wanting to pay off our debt more quickly. It might be something like this 18.99% interest, might be something like this $226,000 mortgage. It might be the fact that our toys are borrowed on consignment, or the fact that my car is now costing more than my first home cost me back in 1977, right? So we have different solutions that we hear about on how to pay off our debt. So one of the solutions that people often talk about is something called debt snowball, where you end up paying off the smallest amount of debt, and then you roll that money in to the next smallest amount of debt. And that's if you're throwing extra money at your debt. So in this case, you would end up paying, let's say you have an extra $50 that you're going to send, you would send an extra $50 a month to your furniture loan payments until that debt is paid off. And then you would take the minimum balance plus the extra 50, and you would add that to your next payment. And that would be the ATV loan, which is the next highest dollar amount. Once those two debts are paid off, you would combine those two debts and you would add them to the next lowest number in debt, right? And you continue doing that until all your debts are paid off. That is a strategy. And that is not a horrible it's not a horrible plan or a horrible idea. It's a strategy. The problem is we don't really know what the benefit of that is. Another solution that you'll often hear about is people talking about debt avalanche. And those are situations where you're paying off the highest interest amount first. So if you have a credit card of 18.99%, you're applying the extra money to the highest interest rate. And once that debt is paid off, you're sending extra money to the next highest interest rate. And once that debt's paid off, you're sending your extra money to the next highest interest rate. The thing about those is those decisions are being made from an emotional standpoint. So you're making a financial decision based on emotions. And that typically for people is not a good idea. So the average household, they have 6 debts. That is the example we used here. There are 720 possible combinations that you could use to pay this debt off. So how do you know what the best way to do that is? The platform that I'm offering literally removes the guesswork out of these scenarios with the push of a button. And if you can follow a GPS to drive to wherever you're headed, this is a solution that will probably work for you. So Dave K from Lidditz, Pennsylvania is one of our customers, and I'm going to share excerpts of his testimonial. He says, I learned my lesson the hard way. Following the prompts seemed too simple for me. I got a $30,000 of income in a one-time payment. So somebody actually died and he got a windfall from that. My agriculture loan was my highest interest loan and I wanted it paid off. So his pain point was interest, right? So he was an interest guy. That's what was hurting him. He wanted it paid off. He put all of the money to the agricultural loan and he canceled $9,000 of the interest. And he was feeling really good about that when he reached out. And it's like, Dave, did you put the money in the system and follow the prompts to see what that would do? And he said, no. And he said, well, let's go back and take a look at that and see what that looks like. If he'd have done that, our tool would have taken that $30,000 that he got as a windfall and it would have spread it between 3 of his loans instead of just putting it toward one. And he would have canceled $15,000 worth of interest instead of $9,000. That's a big deal. So when he says, I learned my lesson the hard way, he'd have gotten an extra third off the amount of interest that he was paying. That's the hard way, right? So what's the difference between what we do and what you can do by throwing an extra amount at your credit card debt or whatever? We use something called algorithms. Algorithms are nothing more than decision-making processes that prioritize and recommend what you should do next with your money based on the data that you put in. And the data is the due dates, the amount, the interest rate, what your goals are, what your plans are, what upcoming trips you have, what annual debts that you have on a regular basis. Those are the things that get prioritized, and Debt Shredder, or our tool, makes a recommendation, and it does the changes in real time. So how our tool is different is by using three main strategies. The first one is called float. It literally takes existing credit resources to maximize grace periods and to use other people's money. So it looks at due dates and those kind of things, and it says, how can I float my money and use other people's money to my advantage instead of the bank using it for their advantage? If you have $100 on loan at your financial institution uses your money all the time. They can lend up to 90% of that to their client base. So if you have $100 on loan or on deposit there, they can loan $90 of that $100, and they're loaning it out at, I don't know, 5, 10, 15, 20, 18, 30% interest, depending on what it is that you're borrowing against, while they're paying you 1.5% or 0.5% for the savings account that it's sitting in, right? So that's using other people's money. Accrual is a way for you to earn interest on money that you have in the best possible account that you can have it in. And that helps you create principal, which will then later be applied to pay off your debts instead of just sitting there as idle cash somewhere. And then we have instant interest cancellation, which literally knocks off the most costly debts first, using strategic payments, looking at the time value of money, and when is the best time to make the extra payments to the debt so you get the best bang for your buck. So this is an example of a report that we ran for Jeff and Cheryl. Jeff and Cheryl are not their real names. This is literally a report. And I want to show you a couple of things. Jeff is age 64. And he's having the conversation because he's approaching retirement age, right? This conversation took place in October of 2021. And he didn't want to leave a legacy of a bunch of debt for his family. So what we have here is $501,400 in debt. That's the legacy that he's scheduled to leave for his family. The bank's plan is everything that's in red here. The bank says it's going to cost $722,000 to pay off that $501,000. That's $220,000 in interest. That's a lot of money. That's $10,000 a month in interest. And the bank says it's going to take them 26.1 years to get that debt paid off. He's going to be 90 years old by the time that debt is paid off. That is a long time to have to work to pay down debt. So we said with our tool that we can have that same debt paid off with $628,996 for a total of $127,599. And we'll have Jeff and Cheryl debt free in 11.4 years. So he'll be debt free by age 75 instead of by age 90, which sounds better to you, right? So we're going to save them $93,075. That is a big tip for your financial institution, and knocking 14.7 years off of the length of time that they're in debt. So here's one of the things about that too. Once their debt is paid off, if they continue to put the money in a 1% return interest-bearing account, they will amass $879,000 by the time the bank says that they would have been out of debt. That's a big deal, right? And a lot of times people say, well, how did they do that? Well, $11 a month in discretionary income. So Jeff and Cheryl stopped drinking 2 Starbucks coffees a month to be able to save $93,075. That's a big deal. So some of the reasons my clients have chosen to work with me, and this is just a small snapshot of the portfolios that I have on file. But my first client, this person was in their mid 70s and they still had $10,890 in debt. The bank is projecting that they're going to pay off $12,190 by the time it's all said and done. They're coming to the end of their debt portfolio. But the thing is, they're in their 70s. We said that we could run the numbers for them and we could have them pay off $11,701 saving them $489 in interest, which is like not that big of a deal for most people. But the bank said they were going to be in debt for 6.3 years. We said we could have them out of debt in 2.7. We saved her 3.6 years in debt. And we did that with $4.46 a month in discretionary income. And this column here will always be the information about what you will get or what you can earn by the end of your amount of time that the bank said you were in debt if you put the money into that 1% interest bearing account. So the next client that I have that we're going to take a look at is this client who has $112,000 in debt. The bank said that it's going to cost them $204,192 to get it paid off. We said we could do the same job for $144,600, saving them $59,500 in interest. The bank says they're going to be in debt for 32.1 years. We say we can have you debt free in 7.7. That is way less than a third of the length of time that they would be in debt, saving them 24.5 years in debt. And that's with $10 a month in discretionary income. So my next client is $269,625 in debt. The bank says they're going to pay $416,000 back by the time it's all said and done. We say we can do the same job for $325,283, saving them almost $91,000 in interest. The bank says they'll be in debt for 27.7 years. We say we can have you debt free in 9 years flat. That's saving them 18.7 years of debt. That's with $50 a month discretionary income that they're putting toward their bills. The last one that I'm going to talk about is a client. They are a client that deals in real estate. They have a fairly large debt portfolio. They have 3 small kids that are in elementary school. $577,000, almost $578,000 in debt. The bank says they're going to be paying $885,800 for their debt to be paid off. We said we can do the same job for $742,681, saving them $143,133 in interest. The bank says they're going to be in debt for 42.5 years. We said we can have them debt free in 15.8. That's saving them 26.7 years in debt. And the thing that's so phenomenal about this couple was financially able to make their payments and stuff, and they were actually paying an extra $500 a month toward their debt, trying to be debt free. We said, you don't need to do that. You are wasting your money. We are going to find the sweet spot for you. And with $300 a month in discretionary income, we can have you in such a better financial picture than you're in right now. So we can really help you with that. And we recommend that you take that extra $200 and put it in an account to go have fun with your kids, right? Go do the things that you want to do. And at the end of that, by the time they're done with their debt, $1.4 million is what they will have accumulated with that 1% rate of return. This is just a few of my clients. You can see that there's a bunch of different people on here. We have a bunch of different scenarios that we run for people. Discretionary income ranges from $4.46 up to $500 a month, depending on people's lifestyles. So the next steps really are to experience the math behind the numbers. You can really start to secure your financial future today. I recommend that you schedule your free analysis. Contact us today. My name is Kim Rainer. I'm a certified life, health, and money coach. My number is here. You can call me. You can text me. You can email me at kim@allaboutspirit.com. Or if you want to go ahead and schedule a time for us to chat, you can go ahead and scan this QR code, and that will take you directly to my Calendly calendar. And we can start to have a conversation and see, what we might be able to do to help secure your financial future today. So thanks for joining me today. And I really appreciate you being here. I hope that you have a great day. And I look forward to talking with you soon. Take care.